Yes.
Is these?
All right, welcome everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay when I'm back like this? All right, great. Welcome everyone. Today is the 17th of April. This is our full council meeting here in the village of Gulf Manor. If you would stand as you are able to join us in the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Presuming everyone has had an opportunity to review the agenda, are there any amendments that need to be made to it before I present it? Need your roll call first. Thank you.
Ms. Cheney.
Here.
Mr. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Knepp.
Here.
Mr. Marks.
Here.
Ms. Snyder.
Here.
Mr. Van Horn.
Here.
Very good, thank you. Is there any amendments to the agenda this evening? Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. We have a number of registered speakers on the agenda this evening, and I would be asking you to step forward as they are listed on our agenda. I would ask that per our rules of council, that when you approach the podium, that you state your name and your address, and so we know that you're present here. And thank you, sir, for being that. Ready, if you need any assistance with getting it properly aligned, go ahead and ask us. So, and if I messed up your name, please correct me. That's another part of why we asked you to say your name. So, there is also part of the rule of council. There's a 3-minute limit for registered speakers. Right? The way I handle that is if you're at the 3 minutes, I'll just kind of like try to get eye contact with you. I don't usually use this at all. Usually it's just pretty laid back. All right, so Melody.
Good evening. Melody in Mail, 2437 St. Albans Avenue, definitely resident. All right. The series of events that has transpired resulting from the Juneteenth Planning Committee requesting support for our celebration has been dynamic. I knew that I needed to address council even before the video of you guys discussing support for the celebration surfaced on Facebook. However, what I would say exactly has remained in flux until this afternoon. So the Juneteenth Committee has issued a public statement, which we'd like to include for the record. I did email that. So in it, we thank our village administration and our concerned citizens. We also encourage our concerned citizens to address the insensitive comments made during council's discussion, specifically in the manner in which council meetings are discussed generally in the way they feel is appropriate. However, as the Juneteenth Planning Committee, we collectively have elected to remain diplomatic, address individual members of council privately, and formally clarify the request for support. I personally ensured that we did just that. I spoke with both Councilman Roger Van Horn and Danny Knipp. As a result, the Juneteenth Committee is partnering with Go Golf Manor, our neighborhood's nonprofit. Danny will be helping with music and marketing. Roger will be helping us with beer. I'm happy to have built those bridges. It strengthens our overall community. This also addresses a concern that Roger expressed during the council meeting regarding liquor licenses insurance. I've also emailed council to clarify our request for support. I would like to include both this email and that enclosed budget for last year's event into the record as well. So immediately following that email, I spoke with Fiscal Officer Eric Pridenoff. And as a result, not only has the village agreed to support the Juneteenth celebration and endorse it, but to also sponsor a majority of it. They're providing us $3,000 in funding. Despite the Juneteenth Committee will continue to fundraise and charge our vendors. This addresses the concerns of Councilman David Fisher expressed regarding the Planning Committee absolving ourselves of any financial responsibility. So with funding from the village and a partnership with Go Golf Manor, we have money for advertisement and programming this year, making this celebration even grander than last year's. Additionally, the funding that we don't spend this year can be carried over to next year, and hopefully this continues decades to come. So the Juneteenth 2023 celebration is scheduled for Friday, June 16th between 4 and 9 at Volunteer Park. So I encourage everybody to please attend, and also let this be a lesson in diplomacy. It was for me personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mann. Is there a motion to include there's a PDF that she was referring to the minutes?
I'll move
Or
that.
to the record?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mann. Brittany?
Good evening, council members and fellow community members. My name is Brittany Kreimer, and I live on Elbrook, 6254 Elbrook. I've been a part of the Goff Manor community for 4 years now. I moved to Goff Manor because I wanted to live in a community that was diverse in race, religion, sexual orientation, and more. Goff Manor felt like that diverse community and was not segregated as most of our communities are. What I've experienced from the community is nothing but love and a sense of belonging. However, the racist comments made by Councilmember Danny Knepp were appalling. They were dismissive at best, egregious, and racist at worst. Comparing Juneteenth, a federal holiday, to acknowledge the formal end of slavery in the United States, to St. Patrick's Day and Oktoberfest, neither of which are federal holidays. Comparing Juneteenth to any of these is ignorant. Councilmember Knepp, I urge you to reflect on your statements, beliefs, and actions. White supremacy is the backbone of this country, rooted in capitalism, racism, and the patriarchy. Your statement and actions embodied this. It was in the nuance of what you said and how you dismissed your opinion is not racist. It was the way that you felt emboldened to make your comments on the record, the way you defended yourself by reminding everyone how you volunteered your time and money. Immediately following your comment with "I'm not racist" brings to mind the homophobic and racist comments all the homophobic and racist comments I've ever had to excuse because someone preceded it with, "Well, I have Black friends. I'm not against gay people. I have a daughter." It is the plantation owner who claims to treat his slaves well, but still participates in the ownership of slaves. It is everyone who has a privilege based on the genetic lottery they were born into. I believe you are sorry you made your statement, or at least you're sorry it was on the record and shared. I do not believe you even understand the deeper problem or how you are upholding systems of oppression. I urge you to look deeper. Why do you hold these beliefs? Who do you listen to, and where do you go to learn and gather information? I urge you not to hear this feedback and immediately reach out to folks of color in our community for them to explain the harm that you have caused, but instead find resources for white bodies to explore the impacts of white supremacy. To start, I encourage you to check out 2 local organizations doing work on this. The University of Cincinnati houses the Center for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation and has many resources. The Hive Cincinnati in Northside hosts spaces for folks to come together in a brave space for personal and communal reflection and learning. In May, they even have a workshop called Courage to Continue Healing Together from White Supremacy. It's a space specific for white bodies to work on this together without burdening bodies of culture. Then I expect action. Be accountable and step down if you do not feel you can represent Goff Manor in a diverse and authentic manner that extends beyond being present at festivities that celebrate minorities. Please do your work. For the rest of council, I urge you to consider your silence, especially those who believe yourself to be allies or have Black loved ones. What did your silence in the face of these statements say to our community?
Thank you, Ms. Kramer. Apologies to both Ms. Neal and Ms. Kramer for referring to you just first.
He just said thank you.
No offense, my name is Brittany.
Ms. Gray. Is Antoinette Gray?
My name is Antoinette Moore, but I'm not going to speak because our official statement is on the record.
I apologize, the registry has you down as Antoinette Gray.
I've been married since I've moved and purchased my home here. Thank you.
Maxine Robinson.
Hi, my name is Maxine Robinson, and I live at 2441 Parkland Avenue. I've been a member of Gulf Manor for 23 years, and I own a home. And looking at the council meeting, about 40 seconds, I look at all the meetings, even though I don't attend, I try to. I was really appalled. So I just take from that experience that I wanted to ask, do you guys have diversity classes or biases classes? Because if there's someone on council that does not look like me, I think there should be some classes done for biases. So I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was cringing. But I would suggest that each one of your council members go through a bias class and a diversity class and look inside and see what's going on if you don't have a representation on council that looks like someone that looks like me, even though I vote. So, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, I'll,
Her mic dropped out.
I saw that. I will ask for auditor. Brett. Right, can you test that again and see if it,
Okay, can you hear me?
it's,
No.
yeah, it's not working. So let's switch it out on this one. For the record, I wanted to say that our administration, scheduled a diversity training. All council members have participated in a diversity training hearing. I know that we are presuming that it's scheduled again, or no, I know that we had spoke with the person who did the training to have another one. Of course, in one training, I think it was maybe 2 hours at the most. Yeah, that's certainly not sufficient for anyone to learn what their own blind spots are, what their own biases are.
Exactly, because we all have biases. So just to take a look and see what's going on. And it's a learning lesson that everyone on council, I mean, before becoming a council member or while you're on council, should have so many classes for diversity. So you can show integrity and empathy for the community, you know. So, but I cringe, and that's nothing, that's how you feel, there's nothing wrong with that. But on a person on the other end, to know how I'm looking at it through my lens, that's how I feel. And so sometimes we have to take a look at ourselves and just go through some classes and see, okay, there's some blind spots. Here are some different types of biases that I can correct and make some corrections. So that's my my proposal to council, is to look into having some biases, you know, take some bias courses and commit to doing that once a year, you know, for all council members and people who are coming on to council due to the makeup of our community, so we can strengthen our community engagement. And also, I want to thank everyone that heard Mel and myself. I mean, we were there for the community engagement, all those who were there that heard her speak about the Juneteenth. So that's all my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson.
Okay.
I would like to, I don't know how usual this is, but ask for a motion to direct the administration, if council is interested in such, to have a annual diversity training worked into this meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to work diversity training into our schedule. Second. Council members.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Good. Thank you for the suggestions, Mr. Robinson. Charlotte Brewer.
Good evening. My name is Charlotte Brewer. I reside at 6122 Mayflower Avenue. I purchased my home in August of 2009 and have lived here for quite a few years. Mayor Densmore, council members, and fellow residents of Gulf Manor, my name is Charlotte Brewer. I am speaking before you today regarding the comments made in the March 27th, 2023 Gulf Manor Village Council meeting by Councilman Knepp regarding funding for the village's Juneteenth celebration. The ignorance displayed by Councilman Knepp in calling the foundation of Juneteenth an interesting characterization referring to its constituents as a special group akin to those that celebrate Oktoberfest and St. Patrick's Day, and reasoning that he had the same pushback on a breakfast with Santa event is inexcusable. These are not the same things. Comparing a federal holiday that commemorates the emancipation of slaves to an imaginary secular figure is egregious and racist. I am here today to ask for accountability from the public officials that we've elected to represent us. We are a small village that prides itself on bringing people together in community, but that does not negate the accountability we have to one another to listen and understand where we have caused hurt. Councilman Knapp's comments are harmful and demonstrate the countless aggressions that the Black community faces on a persistent basis. My fellow residents that are speaking to you this evening are sharing myriad resources for you to use to educate yourself. You need to seek out these resources immediately and commit to learning about how your dismissiveness of Juneteenth has affected the community you represent. If these are not actionable steps that you feel you can take, then I urge you to consider stepping down from council and participate in community events as a resident. When my wife and I walk through our neighborhood, we are comforted by yard signs and encouraged by the yard signs we see that show solidarity with marginalized groups. The Black Lives Matter sign in the window on a house on Graceland, the Progress Pride flag that was displayed at a home on Mayflower, to our own flag that marks our home as a safe home for our queer and trans family. Our council needs to be reflective of the diversity we have in Gulf Manor, and at the very least be a safe space that the community can come to without being dismissed or disparaged. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. Leslie Hamilton Brewer.
Hi, Leslie Hamilton Brewer, 6122 Mayflower Avenue. I'm married into Gulf Manor. Fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Before we fault the author too much for calling into question the celebration of American freedom, we should first pause to reflect on the irony that just 5 years after delivering his "What to the slave is the 4th of July" speech, Frederick Douglass's own citizenship would be revoked by Roger Taney's Supreme Court solely on the basis of race. We cannot pretend that the government in America is neutral or infallible, that it is the perfect arbiter of what traditions should be honored and for whom. I know Gulf Manor in 2023 is not the antebellum US, but as Cassandra Dillard notes, racism takes the shape of whatever will hold it. Barriers to freedom weren't predestined, but they do confirm that there has always been a force to maintain racial hierarchy by pushing back against change. At the last council meeting, Member Knipp pushed back against such change, first othering those lifted up through Juneteenth celebrations by explicitly referring to special groups, and then by doubling down and speaking over other perspectives, particularly those of women. Implicit bias is not a character flaw. We all have it in some way or other. What is problematic, however, is the belief that this absolves us of any responsibility to reflect and improve. Fortunately, we in Greater Cincinnati have easy access to the Freedom Center's resources, including ones that my son and I have just visited, an in-depth implicit bias learning lab, a special exhibit on the 1968 Poor People's Campaign, open through June 18th, and Solidarity Day coming up on Saturday, April 22nd, featuring an evening with the Reverend Dr. William Barber II. Please avail yourself of these and other resources. Implicit bias cannot be addressed by simply identifying and acknowledging our own. Two-part action is required. First, we must work to explicitly reframe our worldviews using strategies like stereotype replacement, counter-stereotype imaging, and perspective taking. Lest you dismiss these offhand, please note that they come from the very liberal Department of Justice Community Relations Services Toolkit for Policing. Second, implicit bias training is one of the least impactful JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion practices, unless it is incorporated into systemic actions and accountability throughout the institution, supporting and comprising the individuals doing such work. I ask the council to commit to creating and implementing an action plan on JEDI, including the essential steps of establishing executive leadership commitment, listening and acting, setting goals and indicators, and creating accountability metrics for results. Further, I ask the council to work with vetted professionals on the creation and implementation of this plan. And again, lest this be dismissed, please note that this comes from the Josh Burson Company as part of an extensive research effort culminating in an irrefutable business argument for these practices, it is good fiscal responsibility to be inclusive. I know that Mr. Knipp has a long history of serving the community. Importantly, as Dr. Kathy O'Bear notes in But I'm Not a Racist, all of these defensive behaviors, feelings, fears, and unproductive thoughts keep us stuck and ineffective as white allies. We either stay silent or react in ways that perpetuate and reinforce racist dynamics. The ways we react out of our deep fear of being called racist undermines our core values and our vision of ourselves. But ultimately, she notes that we can do better. We can act. So today I ask, what to a white man is the 19th of June? At the very least, it must be a call to learn more and do better, one that residents of Goff Manor expect this council to heed as only the start of your journey in solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton Brewer. I'm familiar with the Jedi plan. I don't know how many people are. Is there a motion to explore the recommendation of entering this plan into our administrative programs?
Aye.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, Mr. Michael Sickles.
Michael Sickles, 2434 St. Albans Avenue. Thank you guys for seeing this. I just want to hold this moment. As you see, I am the perfect image of imperfection. We all fall short. We're all flawed in some way. I hope that we realize that sometimes words can be sharper than daggers than the hand that yields them. We all get the same 24 hours in the day and the same 1,444 minutes to freely decide on how our energy will be spent. What makes America America is that we get to celebrate unique differences of our humanness, the very thing that connects us as God's most prized possession. We get to do it freely, most importantly. What matters is that we get to celebrate Juneteenth together with an opportunity to reconcile with the past that happened, bringing us to this moment where we can choose to get proximate and celebrate specific groups, cultures, and heritage as a community. Why would we not want to enjoy and celebrate creativity of each other as brothers and sisters? Again, in our humanness. Why not support individuals who want to effort towards unity and equality? Because I choose to spend my time efforting towards unity and equality. Juneteenth is another example of an opportunity for us to continue and to accomplish what I believe this council goal is for this community. It's to unify this community so that we can do something that no other neighborhood has done. We can choose a radical stance, and that stance is love. We can choose to do something to heal a community, to show all the other 52 neighborhoods what it's like to bring forth a diverse, lush, rich community and show them how we celebrate together, how we disagree together, how we come together, but how we heal together. So it's simple. What will this council choose to effort their energy towards? How will they use the same 24 hours and the same 1,440 minutes a day? Will they use it to effort their energy towards inequality or equality? Division or unity? I hope this moment sparks the change our community, our friends, our city needs so desperately, as we can see that there is so much chaos in this world. Innocent kids are dying every day. People are hating each other every day. We have an opportunity to show the city how things are done. So my hope is that this can be the beginning of a collective journey to heal together as a community as we begin to celebrate Juneteenth, and let that be the start of something great, that the community begins to represent to the world how things are done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ryan Sickles.
Yeah, everything.
I have no other registered speakers this evening. There were cards out in the back.
Anybody?
Request from former Mayor Schwartzberg. Speak.
Do I have to fill out a card?
You can fill that out, you speak.
Okay, I apologize for not doing it in advance. These is there.
Would you approach the podium, please?
Thank you. As long as there's no objection.
Any objection?
Former Mayor Greg Schwartzberg, also was a council prior to that. I live at 6462 Elbrook Avenue. Been living here in Gulf Manor in general for 13 years this year, but that address a little less time because I was done with renting. I was almost saying it all the time. I just wanted to say I agree with what Mr. Sickles was saying. Right off the bat, I couldn't say that any better myself, but as a caveat, and I might hear from Mr. Knapp later, as well as probably other council members, I would assume. Not sure, but being on this side is very different to being able to watch a video and be able to moneyboarding quarterback certain things that were said that I'm not saying were correct. But I'm saying at the heat of the moment, sitting here as a council member discussing an issue, sometimes people are lost for words. And I don't have anything prepared, and I'm doing the best I can with what I have. But I want to speak from the heart. And Juneteenth is a federal holiday. Yes, I agree with everything Mr. Sickles said. I couldn't have said any better myself. But I also feel deep down, Danny Knapp also now knows that June 19th, Juneteenth, is a federal holiday and what it's all about. And it is a new holiday. It's not something that's been around like July 4th or like Memorial Day or like any other federal holidays. So as this issue, I think, from what I gather from what was discussed on that March 27th council meeting, it seemed to me it was a question of funding was the big thing. Perhaps obviously the comparisons for what Juneteenth funding looked like, comparisons may not be fair at the very least. But in terms of I think the issue on the table, I believe, was if that's funded village funds, then I think going forward, then it opens a possibility of all federal events, federal holiday type events, July 4th, Memorial Day, Thanksgiving, whatever else. Also, I would presume would have to be funded in just a fairness as well. So again, I don't disagree with anything that anybody's said before me, but I would just urge people also to look at the other side of the equation from a governmental perspective, from a funding perspective. And I think, and what a hard job this is that you all do, whether it be employees of the village or council members of the village that get paid basically almost volunteers, and the work and dedication you do, not only when you're sitting here at this table, but a lot of work is done, communications, emails, phone calls, behind the scenes to make a lot of stuff happen, and that's pretty much volunteer. So I do appreciate and applaud all of you for doing what you do. I appreciate and applaud all of you for what you come here to do. And this is what it's all about. So I think we all learn and grow from this. We all can and will do better, and just that we have to cling on to the positivity going forward, and that's all we have to do. And then, of course, the big issue is how do we pay for it? That's all, the overarching question. I think at the end of the day that in the interest of that discussion, but I think togetherness is great. You're all here, we're all here, we're all on the same page. Thank you for your time. I apologize for not rushing in advance.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartzberg. To make it clear, it's not in our agenda this evening to discuss this at length. I do want to thank everyone who came, make it clear that you were heard, that this wasn't just about the fiscal part of it. It wasn't about just something being said incorrectly, that should have been said a different way. The concerns were that I heard was that there was a lack of understanding of some of the fundamental things that are hurtful when they're not elevated up as being real, as being acknowledged as that. And I appreciate all the words that were shared this evening, and I appreciate the council members' agreement to take the recommendations of the community on this. Each individual recognizing that whatever chair that we're sitting in, everyone's got personal work, right? Nobody's done with that. Appreciate the empathy that we have with each other. And with that, without objection, I'll move on to the next agenda.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, could I read something for them? That's brief.
Without objection.
I'm gonna face you guys. It's been a tough 10 days and 15 days. And I've done a lot of thinking, and I've had some conversations that opened my eyes. And it's hard. It's hard. I made some mistakes, and I prepared a statement for you to talk about it. And at the end, if anybody wants to sit with me privately, any resident in the village, to talk about whatever they need to talk about. You know, it's a matter of being heard, being understood, and I was blind that day. I'm going to recap kind of a little bit what happened. I just got 2 quick paragraphs, but what I want to say, and pardon me, I'm a little nervous. I'm not a public speaker. I'm just a guy down the street trying to get everybody out on the street to have a block party or throw an event. But first, I want to say thank you for coming. This is what the American process is. It's people to get out, talk, create community, and I appreciate that process, and I respect it. It takes a lot of guts to come up and say whatever it is you have to say, and I respect that. And I respect those of you who got up and said something. But at our last meeting, I'm going to read some of this so I don't mess up. First, I want to say thank you to the mayor for letting me speak, and council, and I thank you guys for letting me say something here at the end. At our last meeting, I tried to express some thoughts about the funding of future events in our village, including Juneteenth. And to be frank, it was a poorly executed effort. I was not intending to speak on the matter at the time and was ill prepared to speak properly that evening. And as you saw, I struggled. I struggled to express myself properly and in an appropriate manner. This is completely on me, and this is my mistake. In retrospect, my position and word choices were not fully thought through yet. And as a result of my words and delivery, not only were my intended thoughts not well communicated, but most importantly, I hurt some very well-intended people in our community, including people I have worked and served closely with in the past and have absolute respect for. So in this, I am truly and very sincerely sorry. It pains me deeply to have caused this. And again, I apologize for the hurt and frustration this has caused. Looking forward, I am excited to see the momentum build for Juneteenth. Really all the events, because that's what gets people out, talking to each other, experiencing each other. That's one of the reasons I came on council. Be more informed, learn, and have people talk to each other. I've been here for 23 years. I know most of my neighbors, and I know that they've given to this community in ways that can't be described. And I've enjoyed it. I've grown from that. And I think there's an incredible value, and this is why I push more and more and more events to get people out. And I saw it with last year's events, and it was encouraging, extremely encouraging. So looking forward to Juneteenth, to all the events currently under consideration, as they each will no doubt bring us closer and closer together as a village and as a community. Please accept my apology. And I look forward to an open dialogue with anybody who was in this situation.
Thank you, Mr. London. The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes for the council meeting of March 27th. And actually, there's an error that says 12/13. Is there anything that, presuming everyone's had an opportunity to look at the minutes, anything that needs to be adjusted to them, anything can be changed, can be added? If not, it's accept the minutes. That's it.
Motion to accept minutes as amended. Well, you may change the date, I believe.
Right, yes.
I'll second just.
I'm told that that is just on the agenda, that's my error.
Okay.
It's written on the agenda, but not on minutes.
Okay.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, it is unanimous. Next, I'll turn over to our fire chief, Dan Weir. Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys once again. First and foremost, I want to, on behalf of the fire district, I want to send our best wishes to Chief Campbell. I know it's been a rough go. We're thinking about him, praying for him, and we're hoping for a quick recovery. We want to see him back at the meeting soon. Also like to congratulate Sergeant, now Captain Reed, on his promotion. We've had a great working relationship this past year. I'm looking forward to more good things with him to come. Tonight, really, my report is pretty short. We haven't had anything really unusual in the village. Run volume's about what we expect. No real major incidents to speak of. Last month, we talked about one small fire we had in an apartment caused by smoking. We were out last week. It was on Rosedale, I believe. It was on the 12th. And actually, it was a electrical fire caused by charging batteries for an electric leaf blower. So just as a safety precaution for the residents out there, batteries that are used for these devices, your scooters, your electric bikes, they do have some propensity to sometimes ignite. So if you can do that, not inside your house, not inside a closet, just someplace where you can actively keep an eye on them. It's a good safety feature. Also, remember smoke detectors, smoke alarms. Early warning is what really got this going. The residents noticed a smell, smoke detector went off, they called the fire department, and they were able to just basically use a water can to put the fire out. So no damage, a few small items lost, but no structural damage, no injuries. So again, just some common sense things that you can do to keep yourself safe. Otherwise, we're looking forward to, I know the summer's going to be ramping up here soon. There'll be some events coming up on the docket. So once again, the fire department's going to make every effort to be at your community events like we did last year. The mayor and the village manager have always kept us in the loop. We either bring in off-duty people to come to meet the residents, or we'll send the duty crew down if that's what it takes, because we do want to be part of this community. We've enjoyed the past year, and we're looking forward to what the summer brings. So does the council have any questions for me this evening?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
We typically allow contributors to leave. It's hard to typically go on. So
I appreciate that, and I'll switch the name tags here. All right, thanks, guys. And as always, if you need anything, give me a shout, please.
Thanks.
I see you were filing out, so I'll give a little bit of resolution. So. So I have my mayor's report now. The first item on that is that at last week's community engagement meeting, I appointed a new chair of community engagement, Mr. Brian Lussey, who is seated now in the audience. That part of our agenda. Some of the things I was considering in finding a replacement, Cody Snyder stepped down, was Mr. Lussey's engagement when we had the issue of nails on Lady Farm. He was boots on the ground guy, went out, was finding where those nails were located, doing a forensic study of those, try to understand where those have come from, and just following up with not just Gulf Manor, because actually that street is City of Cincinnati, following up with elected officials and departments of the City of Cincinnati, trying to figure out what's going on with that. I think that's the exemplar of citizenship. Likewise, when there's a lot of interest in what we're doing with the park, what we're doing with the playground equipment there, again, boots on the ground, to definitely give us feedback on that. It seems to be a wonderful chair of community engagement. I know he's done a little bit of interviewing the past chair to have more of a more information about what some of the parts are that suck about sharing anything. And I think that he's got some education on that. And just look forward to we will do forward. So thank you for your service. Secondly, I met with U.S. Representative Hansman, who's newly elected here twice last week. Once at his, he opened up over Walnut Hills near his office, basically walk in, research your issues. I am fortunate that I went to school with, I went back to school at Union University. One of my classmates in school is now the director of the school office. So shout out to Art Lavelle, who worked with me previously when he was on council. But I'm allowed to say that I have his cell phone number now, which is really because he sees himself as basically a conduit for our local district here. If we need stuff, we also decrease, that's his role, to educate us on what's available in terms of funding, things of that matter. And he's willing to come and speak to council. I would ask that if we do make arrangements, if you guys are interested in this, I would certainly put the word out so that he's able to speak to as many people as possible. He is interested in speaking. Also was in a meeting today with Senators Vance and Brown on new legislation with the number of it here was it Senate Bill 576, which is a bipartisan bill specifically about changes that we can make at the federal level around rail safety following the events in the East Odyssey. And so specifically what some of those proposals are is making sure that our local homeland security people, our local emergency management services people, as well as our local police departments, local fire departments, have more information about what's coming through our community and the schedules, that kind of thing. When there's dangerous materials going through, which of course there always are. One of these that was brought up is that in the United States we have about at least one, the average is around 3 rail accidents, derailments a day in the United States. It happens quite frequently. And unfortunately, towns, villages that don't have a lot of resources, that don't have a lot of money in them, often are just kind of watching, and when an accident occurs, having no idea what the protocols are that come, just trying to help people out on the fly, no emergency plan for something specific like that. What this, I understand, is the Senate bill, which has to go through the House as well. Ultimately, those things get kind of changed a little bit. But what the Senate bill currently is asking for is more transparency, more transparency may not be the right word, more collaboration with local governments about what those emergency plans will look like. Something we're having They are asking for mayors who have been invited to this to provide testimony of support of the plan. I can provide you with more information on how you can read up on it. Certainly desire to pass along the voices of council and administration of our first responders, police department, what they agree with this, to put that forward in bipartisan legislation, given the timeliness with the events of these people are hopefully optimistic that this will pass. If you have any comments on it, certainly convey it to Lisa so that I can include those in my comments that I support. That's the most recent We Thrive newsletter came out this past week, and Manor was highlighted for specifically the hosting the OSU healthy cooking classes, and specifically Diane Luther Thompson, who was one of the residents here at Manor, was highlighted in part. I copied the article to pass it around folks that don't want to look at that. Pass it this way first. I want to thank all those involved in making that happen. Earth Day is this Saturday. There's a couple items that I'll be involved with that. One of them is there is a pledge that I can ask as a mayor to make, just a mayor's monarch pledge, which is about mayors who agree to bring attention to the plight of monarch butterflies in the United States, other pollinators as well, that suffer from the things that we typically do to keep our lungs open. I've asked that as taking this pledge, one of the things that I agreed to do is to make sure that I'm doing all that I can do to get the word out about that, and to make sure that, for instance, local community gardens or the future plans for local community gardens take a look at including native nectar sources that help out their local fauna, including butterflies. So there'll be a whole list of things that I will be making public. I've already briefed the administration on this. This is on me, the place that I'm making here. It's on me to make. It's a checklist of things that I will be doing. It's not a checklist that's forcing the administration to do anything, but I will be able to make that, which is like, but anyway, we'll be hearing more about that. They extended the date to April 3rd for me to actually sign the pledge. Part of that pledge is probably specific things. So that's for Earth Day. Also for Earth Day, we'll be rolling out the tree program application. I presented that to include the record at a previous council meeting. What that looks like is there's an application on there where a resident will put their name and their address, because it's only applicable to residents. And they check off on a list of native canopy trees that are available. I can read what those are. Pine oak or pin oak, sorry, red maple, sugar maple, tulip poplar, and white ash. Included on this application is a description of how long it takes, or what the height is of this canopy tree at full maturity, as well as how many years it takes for them to reach full maturity, and the best seasonal window for planting as well. I want to thank Will Herzog, Dr. Herzog, for helping put all this together, doing the research on pricing all this. The way it works funding wise, this is money that's been provided not by the village, it's not village funds that are doing this. I reached out to Representative Duke Energy actually. They have funding set aside for climate resiliency, and So we were able to get $5,000 for this year, which the village is in receipt of. And the proposal that I sent in had us split up this money such that 2/3 of it is up for community, any resident of Gulf Manor to say, this is the tree that I would like to have, and this is where I would like to plant it. We have priority areas, which are along sidewalks and along roadways where you typically will see a lack of tree canopy for shade, so those would be priorities. So if 5 applications come in and we don't have enough money to support those 5 applications, the applications that are very specific to saying the location that I want to put this in is along sidewalk, along roadway, those are going to take precedent. And basically we'll be accepting applications for a 2-month window, and then determining which of those applications will be accepted. If there are more than the funds allow, we'll do a lottery. Again, if there are only a few priority applications, then those will be automatically accepted, and the rest of them will be subject to a lottery system. 1/3 of the money then will be given specifically for the use of the administration for, I think actually I put in, it says specifically the council to determine where they would like to put trees at in the community. The goal of the grant that I submitted was for us to move from our current level of 30% canopy to what's recommended, which is 40% canopy. So it's an annual thing that I'll be pursuing for this amount of money for Duke Energy. And I'll be putting out that application to go live on Saturday on the day of the operation. The First Suburbs Consortium of Southwest Ohio is meeting next on May 2nd from 6 to 7:30 at Silverton City Hall. The topic, we'll have a panel there on affordable housing concerns in Hamilton County and community engagement. This is very timely for us. We're actually inside the community reports that will be occurring today. Council is looking at a housing plan, how to address some of the issues with regard to fair housing in Gulf Manor. So anyone that's interested in attending that First Suburbs Consortium at Silverton City Hall, certainly let me know. We'd love to see you there. Concerning the strategic plan, there's been, council's been discussing for more than a year now, formulating a strategic plan. We've hired consultants that have been helping us with this. There's a lot of different conceptions about what a strategic plan is with regard to, I know that many of us have looked at it as this is a vision statement for, say, like the next 15, 20 years. What are our priorities? Where are we looking toward? What's our vision for what Gulf Manor will look like out there in the future? It's also a document that can be used to align with state funding that says, hey, and federal funding, hey, we're on board with what you're offering money for. Here's the document that's proof of that. It opens up some doors that way. There has been, where we are in that process, there's been several suggestions of how we move forward to actually kind of getting this thing complete. It's viewed as a living document, meaning that it's not something that's going to be in stone, it's something that we will be developing processes for how we adjust this over time. That we get 5 years down the road or even a year down the road, and are like, this does not line up with what a newly elected council member feels should be the priorities, or whatever. So we'll be looking at a process for change for that. In terms of wrapping it up, to actually get the strategic plan finished, there's pressure to wrap it up coming from several places. One, there's been concern about current projects that we're pursuing money for, and I've heard folks speak to we're not gonna be able to potentially get that funding unless we have the document done, which isn't basically the same thing as a vision document. It's a document that just says, we need some money and here's our document for that. There's pressure, I think, most significantly, we hire these consultants that can't finish their job until council says, we're done tweaking this document. It's been a very long time that they've been waiting for those tweaks to be done. So to get to the point about where we are with completing that document, I attended the community engagement meeting last week. There was some ideas floated there, which you can view in our archives on our YouTube page, about basically that we have, so the strategic plan is the same, so these categories. There's 6 or 7 categories. There's 6 categories, all right? And then there's bullet items underneath those categories. Each council member also has been sent to them another one, you reach out to administration once to get the examples that we have that other communities have done, right? And what I've been asking is, and what I shared in community engagement is I believe it's as simple as if you're looking at the categories, if you don't know what the category titles are, please commit to knowing what the category titles are. Look them over, see what the current bullet points are, and please look at examples from other communities of what they've done. And literally, if it's just as simple as saying, you know what, there's some stuff some other communities had in this category. I'd like to cut and paste it into our document. I'd like each council member to look at that, right? And if there is, communicate that with the administration, communicate it with me. There is this will be, I believe, addressed in one of our community, one of our committee meetings here, reports that there's a proposal that will be having that having a housing consultant come in next week and speak about a housing plan. So I believe there's unity among our council members that as far as getting a deadline date for being done with the strategic plan, that we're going to wait at least until we've heard the input about the community plan to have that understanding of how those 2 plans are separate, what overlay there may be with that. And there is, I believe, agreement to have a meeting advertised to the public where the council members would be outside of a regular council meeting, but it would be advertised to the public where those ideas that they have hopefully already submitted, so they get some feedback from administration on how to work that in, and the likelihood of whether administration thinks that might be possible. So we can sit down and talk about those and get that done. I had a bit of this conversation already earlier in the executive committee meeting, and I'm wondering if I've left anything out. Does that sound like a good consensus of what?
Yeah, if I could recap it, my understanding was we're waiting for the 24th meeting to get the housing plan information because it feeds into a big part of the strategic plan. And at that meeting, we're going to probably schedule the next special meeting to review the plan and then how to finalize it so we can move forward. Is that kind of what?
That's my understanding.
So this is part of the report. Can I take a moment here?
Absolutely, that was my, see, this was the last item on my agenda. Yeah, so we can move into our next report, which is the administration.
So since we're talking about this, and I can't recall if everybody was here or not during the meeting. So there's a couple of different things that we're working on. The 3 basic components of what we need to do going forward are, first of all, the strategic plan. The strategic plan is our vision for the future, and that is being funded by the village for that. The second piece is the housing plan, which is being funded by Hamilton County. So if you recall, last year, Liz Bloom, who was working for Xavier University at the time, took a lot of information, we did surveys with the residents to get that input. She is now a private consultant, but the county has still contracted with her to help us with the housing plan. They have recommendations and data to share with us. That is a huge conversation. So what I would like to do next Monday, April 24th at 6:30 p.m., can we convene a special council meeting specifically for the purpose of Ms. Bloom coming and presenting that information?
I'm out of town.
I also cannot make it.
So again,
I cannot make it, and Lou is out of town, but
okay, then that is a quorum still.
I'm
Is there a
checking.
motion?
I'm checking to see.
A second, we should discuss it.
Mine is pending.
So then what's another date that you can throw out there that people can be available?
I'm available.
Because honestly, this is too much to try and encapsulate on council.
So my understanding is that, so we have two that are confirmed that can't make here, and Ms. Cheney, you're still,
Tiffany,
do you have an idea of when it will be?
on the 24th, I won't know. He has to do with the family.
So the following Monday is May 1st. We have a planning commission meeting actually that needs to be conducted that night.
That'll be a short meeting.
If that starts at 6:30, so
We have a
this,
meeting following.
this body can meet at 7,
and that would be just to hear her report.
correct?
What about a
To ask
different day
her
of the week?
questions. The first of May.
Like a Tuesday or Wednesday? Or
I have engagements Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays every week.
Is there a motion for the first, Monday the first?
Pending availability of the consultant.
I'll make a motion for Monday the first, pending availability of a quorum and consultant
At 7 p.m.
at 7 p.m. on
I'll
May
second.
1st.
Second. Any other discussion? Anybody know off the top of their head right now? if
That should
work for them? This one too.
So we can get on the
Okay. Any objection to us sending the invite out to the community members as well? Wouldn't think so. The committee members, yeah, that's community members. Was there a second? Yeah, Ronnie was second.
second committee or community?
I meant committee, I said committee, I meant committee, it'll be an open meeting, so anyone can attend the meeting, publicize on the website, yes. But in terms of having a seated position to be able to speak.
essentially a working session.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
7 p.m., correct?
Yeah, administration will follow up with council about whether that for Sunday. So,
Sorry to clarify, that's the time?
7.
Okay, nothing new to report really on the road projects right now. You probably noticed that the first course of construction is taking place on Beatty Road. It looks nice, but that's just the beginning. The deep repairs and the tearing out of the curves and replacing the sidewalks, that's fun. So it's stay tuned, it's gonna happen. Greater Cincinnati Waterworks is about wrapped up on the water line replacement on Inglewood, Canterbury, and Millbrook. Rack and Ballauer has started to stage for construction on Canterbury, Inglewood. And Liga will follow up with Millbrook as soon as they're complete with that project. So I don't have a time frame on that yet. In the executive committee, I have reported on a Sanibel traffic study. So for those of you who are in the audience that were in that meeting with Ms. Snyder, the question keeps coming up, what are we going to do with grant funding when it becomes available and how we continue to do our project? So we've been getting a smattering of funding on various specific things that we know that need to be done. What I'm looking for is some cohesion so the projects relate to each other. So the first question to ask ourselves is, what does Sanibel Avenue look like in the future? My personal preference, I'd like to look like downtown Montgomery with nice stone sidewalks and curbs and some things to control parking and to improve our pedestrian traffic flow. The only way to answer that question though is if we have data that tells us what traffic is, give some recommendations in terms of things that we can do to calm traffic on the Sanibel, and look at things like pedestrian flow, improvement of safety things for pedestrians. Do we want a bike lane? All of those kinds of things. We're looking at doing that study for Englewood to the railroad tracks. So we'll have additional information about that. It would be fairly quick turnaround within 45 days of when we commit to doing the study. The council will have something that we can actually look at. But then again, that feeds into our strategic plan. One of the items is creating a sense of a centered space, which I think we've talked about being the downtown city center area. This helps us get there. And I'm also hoping that we'll be able to include some of this data as we move into renovating the intersections that we need in Holbrook with new traffic signals and stanchions and wall signs and all those kinds of things. The other thing that we're looking to do is to improve safety, particularly around the school area, which really is something that we would like to ensure is better. Questions on the traffic study before I move on? I'm pleased to report that the $50,000 mini grant for use for funding the park shade sale project was awarded to us. We got that money. Mr. Putoff is currently working with the vendor to set up a meeting with us to be able to take a look at the materials and what needs to be done to get that project going.
Which project?
The shade sale project. So nothing specific on that at this point, that you are working on that right now.
For clarification, for those who haven't been following this all the way along, this is $50,000 to use for shade in the park around the playground areas and all that, where we just shade space.
And that to the trees, yes. Other thing that I would report is we're doing a cleanup yard sale weekend, May 19th through We Thrive. Prior to that, from May 17th to 24th, Keep Cincinnati Beautiful, along with the Village of Gulf Manor, is providing a dumpster in Volunteer Park for old tires. So if residents have old tires on their property or they've had tires dumped on their property, all you need to do is come down with your tires with proof of being a resident of the village, and you'll be able to, there's tires in the dumpster.
That date was the
May 17th to 24th. And then the weekend, that moves into May 19th, which will be our planting day. Planting day is when we ask for community representatives to help us clean up our gateways, plant flowers in front of the municipal building in the park, and around the signs coming into the village. I believe we will have a business partner, I think it's not confirmed yet. And then the yard sale is that same weekend. So that'll be the 19th, 20th, and the 21st. And I think that is also, the 21st is the date scheduled for the Soapbox Derby, I believe.
Which date is that? Which date?
Sunday, May 21st.
That's correct.
It's a busy weekend.
Is there an adult division in that soapbox?
We'll stuff you into one.
7 to 17. Every day there's one.
That's right, every day.
Other other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Captain Reed. Captain Reed is our acting chief at the moment, with Chief Campbell's absence. He's done a great job cleaning up some things that were details that needed to be taken care of. And I'm enjoying working with him. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good job. Thank you.
And that's my report.
Very good. I left out of my report We Thrive does a data profile for all its communities that are involved with them. So we have the Gulf Manor one now. It's been published. What this does is it provides statistics, demographic statistics. How many kids do we have in Gulf Manor? What's the economic mean of or average of the median rather of our residents here? How many houses versus apartments, that kind of stuff. So it's we see what percentage of folks have disabilities, what percentage of folks with disabilities are living in children in their home. Very informative document as we think about plans for the village. Very great resource that we get for being in connection with the This went out as part of the most recent, maybe the newsletter before. I don't remember if it was, sorry, if it was, I don't know how that launches anyway. If you like this, send me an email and I can forward it to you.
Can that just be put on the webpage and see?
Oh, that'd be great.
We don't need it sitting out.
Mayor, do you know the source of that data? Did they pull that from the census, or did they do a survey themselves?
I believe it is the census data. This is for 2021. This data that was just published. 2023.
So that's what we sort of grandmothers in the Rice County in 2019.
Mr. Mayor, when I was working with We Thrive before, they also have a lot of data available that is not available to the general public that they mine appropriately. So I think that's what it is some of it too.
For those who don't know, so the We Thrive partnership that we have with them, We Thrive is an initiative through the Hamilton County Public Health Board about partnering with communities to increase health. Health awareness and better our statistics in terms of where we have populations that aren't healthy. Right? Folks that are that have diabetes, folks that are smoking, how to address, how to partner in the community to address some health issues and stuff is what we're all about. We're great partners with things that can be considered health as far as like getting together, getting outside the house, doing walks in the community, that kind of stuff. Having yoga in the park, for instance. So that's what the We Thrive partnership is about. Great things that we get as part of that, as well as this great information. So with that out, I will now turn it over to our fiscal officer, Mr. Goodman.
So most of my report was covered in the finance committee tonight, so I will just briefly summarize. Income tax receipts for the month and for the year are year over year higher than they were the previous year. You can see minutes or see the finance report for all of the specific details, but the major noteworthy items are that we are no longer receiving money into our general fund from the Little Miami Fire Rescue tax collections. That's coming directly from our taxpayers through the tax levy, which goes into its own dedicated fund. So the numbers look like we've lost all this money in one area, gained all this money in the other area, but really when it all comes down to it, we're still about $20,000 ahead in income tax receipts. Otherwise, we spoke at the STAR Fund. We spoke about investments in Fifth Third Bank with a dedicated savings fund, which will all generate some interest for the village bank account. So nothing that requires much more explanation right now. So if you want more information on the finance committee, either you can see the minutes or you can see the reporting online. But that's the general overview of what happened here.
Any questions for this officer? have to read.
All right, good evening. I'll start with our monthly mayor's court report. Total to the city, $4,695.00. Total to the state, $1,348.50. And total to other, $46.50. For total revenue for the month of $6,090.00. This concludes the mayor's court report. Any questions?
Questions, do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'll try and keep everything really brief. I know you guys get tired of hearing me talk. On April 4th of 2023, obviously, about 1600, about 4 o'clock, one of our cruisers was involved in an automobile accident and attempting to apprehend a stolen vehicle that entered the village. We received notification from our flock cameras that vehicle had entered the village right here at Weehee and Sanaville. Myself and Officer Russ attempted to locate the vehicle. I attempted to initiate a traffic stop. At that time, the vehicle made a U-turn and caused a head-on collision with Officer Russ, disabling Unit 122. A brief pursuit followed. I lost sight of the vehicle. Obviously, I'm not going to drive recklessly through our village, unlike these juveniles that were in this vehicle. They ended up crashing out at Langdon Farm in Elbrook. They fled on foot with the assistance of Norwood, Cincinnati, and Hamilton County Sheriffs. We located some potential suspects a few blocks away. They were taken into custody. They remain in custody as persons of interest, but there's some investigation to follow. There are some questions about an incident that occurred at Woodward High School, if this vehicle had anything to do with that. I'll give the same answer I gave the media. I can't confirm nor deny. We'll kind of leave it at that. Officer Russ was uninjured. The vehicle is being repaired. Insurance is going to cover that. So we are down a vehicle currently, but things are looking better. On that same note, Hyundai and Kia owners, they need to protect themselves. We have steering wheel locks here that we will give out to Kia owners. Hyundai owners, please feel free to stop in. We have other resources for you as well. Thefts are on the rise. We are not exempt from this. Amberley Village is seeing it. Cincinnati is seeing it. Pleasant Ridge is seeing it. Some of the other larger municipalities, Coleraine Township, made the news. Multiple thefts a night. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it. The only thing you can do really to protect yourself if you own one of these vehicles is a steering wheel lock. Park in well-lit areas, we are making a huge push for cameras. They can contact the police department, and I will gladly recommend what I feel is best to help you out with this, but lighting and camera is key. Steering wheel locks are crucial. Other than that, weather's breaking. Officers will be out and about, going door to door, answering any questions that you may have, providing you resources that we can give you, and just having a general conversation. I like to talk, so you'll probably see me as well. It's been a crazy weekend, or a crazy month, I should say, in the police department. For those who don't know, Chief Campbell is out. He has been dealing with some medical issues that we're working through, and he's working through. So we just ask that you kind of keep him in your thoughts and prayers during this time. Police department's in safe hands. We don't have to worry about that. We just kind of want to focus on him getting better, and you know, we've got this. So if you can kind of keep him in your thoughts and prayers, we'd appreciate that. Other than that, I don't really have much for you. Our strategic traffic enforcement program is still underway. We are out there looking for speeders and enforcing speeding, other traffic laws, including the new hands-free law that went into effect. There is a ton of information out there if you are unaware, but at this point you are not allowed to do anything with your cell phone other than a mirror swipe. That is it. We don't have to prove that you were texting. We just have to see that the phone is in your hand and you are doing something more than a single swipe with it. So heed the warning, we will be enforcing that. Distracted driving, as we know, is a problem, and we don't need any issues in our village. Slow down, drive safe, have a great week.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions?
I just have one comment. I've had two residents talk to me about the police to peace effort.
Yes.
That they said, hey, the police, I talked to them, they came over and said, how are we doing? Trying to get to the residents, and they were really, this was really cool. They're really happy with it. So I've actually heard feedback directly, and I wanted to pass it on to you. It's happening.
I appreciate that. So I will touch on that. The Police to Peace program, we've started the framework on that. So the police department has completed their end of the training course. There are some financial issues that we've encountered for the council members that we're going to try and obtain a grant to pay for your portion. And then there will be that module coming out. And what that does basically is it explains to you what Police to Peace is. I've kind of touched on this in other council meetings where it pretty much discusses how police officers originate from peace officers, and then what the title becomes a stigma. We want to kind of remove that stigma and make sure you understand that we are here in a guardian mindset as guardians of peace, and we're here to keep the peace. And we want to get back to the basics. I've kind of been my philosophy for the whole year, and this is just going to kind of further emphasize what we're moving towards. So more to come on that, but I'm working through some obstacles. We'll get there.
Thank you, Captain Reed, for your leadership bringing that to our department. I know that it takes the whole department to pull this off. I really appreciate you doing that to the department. Thank you.
So we're at the point where I need a motion to accept the finance report. A second.
Motion to accept the finance report.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Objection to motion carries. Mr. Butler, give us the solicitor's report.
There was a memo sent out to all council members detailing the legislation that we need to adopt tonight. The first piece of legislation is resolution number 2023-6, which establishes compensation for our village administrator. His review has been completed. This was run by the finance committee, and it's retroactive back to April 11th. And then there'll be another, I understand that there'll be another evaluation for his yearly evaluation going forward. This one's simply to pass it again retroactively back to April 11th, 2015. So I need a motion to read by title only.
Motion to read by title.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Resolution number 2023-6, resolution establishing compensation for the village administrator and declaring an emergency. We don't typically do resolutions by emergency. They are effective virtually when they pass. However, given the delay in this one, we want to be clear that it will be effective upon passage. So I need a motion to adopt by title, or I'm sorry, motion to adopt as a first.
Motion to adopt as emergency.
So a second.
Second.
All those in favor of this passage?
Yeah,
Aye.
all right, no, passing as emergency, then we have to.
Motion to adopt. It's got to be roll call. Yeah. Motion to adopt as an emergency. Roll call.
And we can
Oh,
discussion.
okay.
Now we have discussion now.
I want it now. Okay, yes. Okay, I wasn't here, you all know, for the meeting to come up with the compensation for Mr. Burke. And I'm going to approve it, that's fine, but I want everybody to know that I asked this information to be sent to me because I was out of town. It was never sent to me. I asked twice, still didn't get it. So I have no idea how you came up with these numbers at all, but I will pass it. But I'm also going to ask you if anything was discussed about paying interest on the money that he's been owed for a year.
I believe so. Mr. Fisher is the chair of the finance, directing questions.
Anybody to answer me from finance?
I don't believe it was brought up, and I'm not sure since some of this was an executive session, if we can say one way or the other.
Current executive session now.
Right.
Okay, so then let's go for the future then. Okay, so this can't happen again. No, not at all. And
Ms. Cheney, who did you, for the record, who did you speak to and ask for that?
the chair, Mr. Finance, yes.
So Mr.
I talked to him while I was in Tennessee, yes. And then I texted him too, and I never got it. But, okay, so this,
Except, hold on, I'm getting
Do
it.
not recall ever being asked for this information.
oh, for God's sake.
Do it.
Never mind. You did, I did ask you. I said, send me the information because I'm not gonna be there.
You sent me different information that we never brought up. That's what we discussed.
I didn't send you any information. I asked you
You
to send
asked
me
me
what
to
you
send,
came
you
up with.
asked me to send you information for a different topic that we never
No,
discussed.
no, I asked you to send me this too.
I'm going to ask you guys
But
to work
anyway.
it out after the meeting,
Okay.
please. Figure out
Yes.
where the communication breakdown occurred.
Okay.
And Ms. Cheney, thank you.
Okay, so in order to not have to go through this again, I am suggesting that we do, and I know the executive talked about coming up with a plan, talked about that tonight. And so in this plan that we come up with, I would like a resolution that states in there when the review has to be done, because Mr. Hurst's review is due now, again, for this past year. So when it needs to be done, it started, and when it needs to be done. So maybe started 30 days before it's due, and 30 days, it has to be finished 30 days after that. So we don't go into this again. And then if it doesn't get done, we're gonna add in interest. Because he could have, where am I? He could have,
Could have had the use of that, you could have had the use of that fund, that's fine.
yeah, he could have made money off of it, and then the money's going into his pension, and the pension also increases. So it's totally unfair.
If you'll note,
Yes.
from the resolution, we addressed the pension.
And that was discussed. We are gonna address the pension.
Yes.
I've spoken to PRS.
I know.
There's a method whereby he's gonna get credit for PRS.
Right.
So that's not gonna.
But if the money was invested a year ago, wouldn't there be interest?
No, I'm not talking about the
accumulated?
investment aspect of it, I'm talking about how it affects his retirement.
Yes, I do know that it goes in there, into his pension.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
But it's
So
going in a
that's-
year late.
Except, no, what we're doing is we're gonna file for the amends the contributions retroactively as well. Okay, there's a specific form that they require or accept that allows it to be as if it happened a year ago. And I've noted in the resolution as well, if you look at section 1 towards the end, that it be retroactive to April 11, 2022, in a manner most favorable to the village administrator, the village administrator, other rules and regulations of the public employee practices. So I mean, we've been aware of that issue since we started working on this resolution. That needs to be addressed.
Correct.
But I understand with the interest, you're talking about interest, I get that, that's a separate issue.
Yes.
Yes, so I just want to pick it up. To the extent that, well, it's not just possible, to the extent that we will make sure that it benefits in the way it would have had it been passed last April, as far as PRS. That we're going to address.
So now,
Retirement, or your interesting question is understood about.
And it's excellent as well, and if we're, if the proposal has been in motion on creating a resolution or ordinance to make this happen, I think it makes sense, not just for the administrator, but the public employee where it's late, I think it makes sense. So
I agree.
so,
Right.
suggestion.
and if we give him interest, which I think I should make a motion to make sure that he gets interest on that money from that year. We're gonna go ahead and approve this, because we're not gonna stop his paycheck coming, that he's been waiting for over a year. But I think that we should discuss interest on it as separately paycheck.
I would agree. He could have used that money in any different number of ways throughout the year.
Could have invested it, that's the
Could
word
have
I want.
invested, he could have paid down a credit card, not that you have credit cards,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Right.
it could have saved quite a bit of money, so I would concur with
I
that.
I heard it first, is there an official second?
Is this specifically about the interest on, what is the motion?
I was thinking that the motion, correct me if I'm wrong.
The first motion is to go ahead and pay interest, right?
Oh, that's your motion.
Mr. Hurd.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other one would be we need to talk about a resolution so this doesn't happen again.
May I address Ms. Cheney? Oh,
Why, I just like to clarify what the motion is.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Keep discussing it, it's fine.
No, let that motion go.
Are you making a motion to amend the resolution that's in front of you, reflect interest on the difference in his pay from April 11th to now?
Yes,
Okay, and
because we can do that and he'll still get his check, right?
correct. The question is, and because this has been addressed by finance, the interest wasn't addressed, what kind of interest are you?
Whatever the interest was at that time period, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're very sure.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out a method, you know, what's a proper and appropriate method to determine what that interest is.
It has an index of that, it doesn't have an index for cost of living. So I would bet that the state has an index for interest on funds that are leaked.
My suggestion might be then that we not move on that time.
Oh, but we have to do it.
Well, move on this,
Oh, okay.
but then.
add
Okay.
He wants to
That's
separate
okay.
it, we need to
That's
separate.
fine.
Okay,
We'll
yeah,
separate
just,
it.
and then we know what we're talking about.
Okay.
We'll give them interest.
I'm okay with that.
So in order to keep this, the interest out of this, I think the solicitor should work with someone specifically to figure out the interest, and that might be through my office.
That makes
So
sense.
just print it off.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So who would that be? The finance chair?
Seems like finance chair.
Everybody's behind you.
When's the next finance review?
Next month.
The end of May,
Is it before the next council meeting?
No.
Second.
May 27th.
Well, it doesn't change the fact that he would get the retro pay, it's just the interest that he might have gotten, so.
Well, you don't know what the rate of pay is, you know.
Oh, I thought we did.
All that doesn't figure that out.
No, we don't. We
Oh,
don't.
my
That's-
apologies. I thought we did.
We could certainly pass a resolution stating that it's a certain percentage without knowing the actual retroactive amount. But either way, I don't know whether we can do that.
Yeah, I would suggest another thing that can occur with the timeline here is it may be good form to simultaneously request that our solicitor look at the wording for something that makes this policy for all our employees, so it's able to have your favor and one employee or everybody else who has that simultaneously.
Okay, and we did discuss that this review would be happening like in April. So.
Well, the contract which says it should be.
Right,
That's now.
Right.
that's down.
Uh-huh.
May I address that? Yeah, we've apologized and we know it's taken too long. When it was handed to me, it was saying you're supposed to do this with no information. And I admit, it's been confusing, it's been whatever. But in the process now, I've come up with a process that I think was fair. It's gonna be up for discussion. And we were gonna talk about an executive, it was on the agenda for tonight's meeting, but it got pushed off. So tonight I offered I will write up what I think, just something to put out for discussion for a resolution to make sure that this process for the administrator is memorialized. And we did include or discuss the 30-day windows
Okay.
before and after and all these other things. So those things have been discussed, but feel free to give me a call and make sure I get it all. I want to make it as complete as I can when I do it. So.
And for further clarification, our village administrator has done a wonderful job of updating the policy of giving reviews to all the staff here. And basically, part of the holdup on this is we wanted to apply the very system that he's using with all the other employees to him as well. We had to figure out how to do that. It took way too long to do it, but it looks like we got the solution in place.
So we're doing what you're asking. It's in process. I will get
So we'll be ready to vote. Resolution. Is there a motion made?
So
A motion to adopt? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we
I put together what I believe is the consensus is Ms. Cheney would like to see a resolution passed for the review process and inclusion of interest on money owed to any employee of the village that has not received their review in due time.
We're talking about resolution 2023-6.
I understand that's a comment that was part of the discussion that was meant. This is not a motion. This is just a statement.
Okay. But you should have had a motion in a second for 2023-6.
Well, I already have a motion to adopt and pass it as an emergency. This was just a discussion.
Okay.
Before we did all vote. Then I believe.
So for clear, before we do roll call here, what we're voting on is what you guys got in your email today or earlier. Resolution by title, the resolution establishing compensation for village administrative. So we have first and second on this. Now, if there's no further discussion, I'll ask for it.
Sorry, I have a motion to adopt and pass emergency. We had a vote.
Yeah, we did have a second.
That was, a motion to adopt by Mr. Van Hart and a second by Mr. Fisher. But did I miss something since then?
That was the
No, so that was a motion to adopt and pass as an emergency.
Yeah, we need a roll call.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just wrote it wrong here. Okay, Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Did I apologize. Ms. Cheney?
Yes.
Ms. Cheney, okay, yes. Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hart?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is resolution 2023-7.
Now there's a motion that I think Ms. Cheney wants to put forth to add.
Yeah,
interest.
yeah.
I thought you already done
Well,
The
I'm
first
not
passed
sure
this.
what it is.
Now,
Yeah.
now, now,
My understanding, what I heard was that we were waiting on the specifics of like, you two were gonna, these two were gonna work together on getting the specifics about what the interest rate is.
Before we have a resolution.
Yeah. and then we
There you
make a
go.
resolution
Okay.
with it, so that it's
Yeah.
not-
It's actually,
That's
Mr.
true.
Mr. Fisher, Mr. Butler.
Well, actually, it would make sense for.
we too should come up with the amount to pass it to you.
And I choose resolution.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agreed.
Very good, so next week's legislation.
Thank you. 2023-7, this rescinds resolution 2023-3, which was authorizing the purchase of the 2023 Ford Police Interceptor. As you know, as we discussed earlier, that vehicle is not available in a timely manner. And we have a new vehicle, which is and was less expensive. So the first thing I need you to do is adopt resolution 2023-7, which rescinds resolution number 2023-7.
Motion to adopt resolution 2023-7.
Second.
Yes.
No, I have a suspended rule that passes an emergency. Is that
No.
correct? No, then, okay.
Actually, we do need a motion to read by title.
Okay, motion to read by title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 2023-7, a resolution rescinding resolution number 2023-3, authorizing the lease purchase of a 2023 Ford Police Interceptor and accessory equipment.
Motion
To adopt.
to adopt.
Second.
Yeah, sorry.
Roll call, or any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Cheney?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yep.
Mr. Van Hart?
Yes.
Next is resolution 2023-8, which does authorize the lease purchase of a 2022 F-150 responder and accessory equipment. And this is the new vehicle that is the vehicle that we've been on.
Motion to read by title only.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 2023-8, resolution authorizing the lease purchase of a 2022 F-150 responder and accessory equipment.
Any discussion? For clarity, if you're able to follow this, we made a decision to buy a new vehicle, then we just rescinded that decision and
At less cost.
We
We have to have a motion, we just,
Sorry.
we have to have a motion to adopt, we have a motion to read by title only.
Yeah, we have a motion to read by title only. We need a motion.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Motion to adopt resolution 2023-8.
Second.
Ashley, when she's closer.
Ms. Cheney. Ms. Cheney.
What?
Yes.
Oh, roll call, yes.
Mr. Fisher.
We're usually better than
Yes.
Well, I
Mr.
thought
Marks.
so.
Mr. Marks.
Yes.
Ms. Snyder.
Yes.
Ms. Raynor.
Yes.
Thank you. And last piece of legislation regarding mayor's court costs, it's an ordinance. We have not raised our costs in some time, where if you're here, you can recall, years back, none of this was here. There was a disco ball up there. I was blind, but it's gone now. All of this has been redone. I think there are plans to make future improvements. You know, the mayor's court, it's important that it present itself professionally. And the improvements that have been made have done that. It'd be nice if we were looking to make additional improvements. Clientele is of the defendants, but let's face it, it's a mayor's court, so it's relatively minor offenses. And it's nice to have it done. So we've raised the costs, $20 across the board. It's broken down in section 1. So it's ordinance number 2023-4, and I need a motion to read by title only.
So we have a first and a second, is that
Yes.
correct?
Who's the
I'll
second?
second it.
Given that it's short, as part of the discussion, I'm wondering if, since we do have people in attendance here, if it's short. But it includes what prices are changing, which I think is relevant to
I can hold up and do it. Ordinance number 2023-4, an ordinance establishing court costs for Village of Gulf Manor, Ohio Mayor's Court declaring emergency. Whereas the cost to operate and maintain the Village of Gulf Manor Mayor's Court increase each year, and whereas ORC section 4901.261 appoints the court to charge additional fees to computerize the court at the office of the clerk, and whereas the Village of Gulf Manor is in need of purchasing equipment in order to operate the mayor's court, and whereas the Village of Gulf Manor has upgraded the appearance of the mayor's court and then improves the court itself, now therefore be it ordained by the council of the Village of Gulf Manor, Hamilton County, Ohio, that the Village of Gulf Manor hereby establishes effective the earliest date allowable by law following mayor's court costs and fees. The indigent defense support fund for legal violation is $20, for criminal violation is $20. For other violations, $20. The indigent defense support fund, yes.
I was going to ask, do you happen to know what it's changing from? Was it $10 before?
Actually, no, I do. Actually, all the costs are the same, except for what goes to the village. Hence, that's how we can use the money. Okay. Indigent defense support fund costs for non-moving violation is $10. Victims of crime is $9 on a moving violation, $9 on a criminal violation, and $9 on another violation. Indigent defense support fund, $5 for moving violation. Drug law enforcement fund is $3.50 for a moving violation. Indigent driver's alcohol treatment fund, $1.50 for a moving violation. Computer fund, $10 on moving violation, $10 on a non-moving violation, $10 on a criminal violation, and $10 on an other violation. Mayor's court operation and facilities is $20 for a moving violation, $20 for non-moving violation, $20 for a criminal violation, $20 for a parking violation, and $20 for another violation. Village revenue costs $21 on a moving violation, $50 on a non-moving violation, $31 on a criminal violation, parking violation is $70, and other violation is $31. A grand total across the board for costs for all offenses of $90.
This ordinance supersedes all previously adopted legislation in conflict herewith. This ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary for the preservation of the health, safety, and peace of the village of Gulf Manor, Ohio, as it is necessary for the timely collection of revised costs and fees of their operation and maintenance of Gulf Manor Parish Schools.
Thank you for your intelligence. Are there any questions? Roll call.
We need a motion to suspend rules and pass it as an emergency.
Motion to suspend the rules, pass the emergency. Well, no, first was motion, well, suspending the rules.
Just tell us what we.
Okay. Motion to pass the emergency.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That is all I have. Oh,
Now we need a motion to adopt, correct?
Yes.
pardon?
Now motion to adopt. Yes.
Motion to adopt 2023-4.
Second. A second?
Fisher.
Speaks up.
And then roll call, please.
Ms. Cheney?
Yes.
Mr. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes.
There's a short memo at the end of our report about the fees in the right of way. Discussed this at the executive committee meeting. Essentially, the mayor's talked about a tree program for the village. I was tasked to find out, what the issue, what the rules are regarding plantings in the street right of way. It's actually very simple. It's in our code. We don't allow it. So if we're going to start doing that, it was my recommendation that we then pass a ordinance amending section 907 of our code to in some way allow trees to be planted in the right of way. And when I say in some way, as I addressed in the executive meeting, the rules kind of across the state go from none at all, which we have, to no rules at all, somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle is basically you can plant it in the right of way, but you have to have a license from the village. Typically, there is either a nominal fee for that or no fee at all. The idea of having this license is to make sure that the tree is appropriate, the roots won't spread out, destroy the sidewalk, it won't get so tall that it gets into the wires. So
And that's not all, you have to be careful it doesn't interfere with drain lines, water lines, gas lines.
Correct.
Which is, and our berms are very narrow in Gulf.
Right.
It's not like the 6 and 8 foot ones up on Grand Vista and Pleasant Ridge. So, I think the reason this was done years ago is because the berms are so narrow, almost any root system is gonna impact either the street or definitely the sidewalk.
And they already have.
And they already have it, which is, so I think we ought to proceed very carefully with around the line of trees and around the way.
I was specifically interested in allowing just native plantings, not necessarily trees, but I don't know, coneflowers, but those are actually get too tall. But things like that would help with the mayor's pledge to healthy monarchs. So I think that maybe we should consider that as an option, and maybe not as severe an option as to allowing trees.
by the way, that's not allowed either.
Right.
There's no planting in the right of way other than.
Yeah. So for clarification, Ms. Snyder proposed this, actually, my understanding was completely independent of the mayor's tree program. The mayor's tree program doesn't grant anyone the ability to plant it in places where you're not allowed to plant. People would have to follow the rules of asking for a variance and everything with that. I know there was some confusion because when the idea was presented, some people thought that the two were connected. They could be connected, but it wasn't presented that way. So at the very least, I think everyone's in agreement that it's important to have clarity around what the rules are.
I was confused. I didn't think it was a block group like that.
So in the executive committee, we asked that there be consultation with the mayor's tree list, because I didn't recall the trees from your list, but some of those trees in the right of way would not be. So those are relative trees. None of those would be, they're not widespread, but they're too tall.
We probably need to get some direction on small homes, if we consider trees. We have a list of those that people can apply for, or as the Snyder said, people want to do it. And the problem with planting this thing is people cleaning them.
Right.
And that's, I know of 3 spots in the village that have that tall grass with the whiskey or little things on it. That could get out of hand over the summer, that there is one whole yard, green one, that's planted. That is a big decision.
Yeah, I do think consideration has to be made for the height of the plants, et cetera, so there should definitely be considerations.
Yeah, and absolutely. For the mayor's tree program, for clarity, the grant was specifically for canopy trees. So we're talking about monster trees that residents can ask for. And so, for instance, when you're traveling down the Sandstone, you see there's the largest trees that are on the Sandstone over by the apartment buildings. They're not right on the road, right? And that's basically what's being offered up as far as what we take priority would be trees that are along a road, but that doesn't mean in that danger zone. So, yeah, I would.
Get away from power lines.
People, again, if it's, they can see the variance on that. There may be, for all I know, instances around the village where a variance would make sense.
I don't think a variance applies actually, it's part of code. It's not part of housing code or the zoning code, it's an ordinance. So I really don't think we get variance.
So the, I need explanation for the concern.
Mr. Mayor, would it be helpful if somebody were able to collect all these suggestions? Because I have a few, I think there's other ones, and then collect them for Mr. Butler to use for whatever he might put together. Is that
I would suggest that most of the objection from Snyder, this was kind of something she's championing. So I would suggest that you.
just to get information,
Yeah.
yeah, resolve her.
Send it my way.
Okay.
You can also contact it if you want.
Okay. Assume that is the Ohio Department of Natural Resources?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, anything else here?
No, sir, thank you.
Mr. Van Horn, you have an executive committee report.
Yeah, I'll keep it short because we talked about the trees, which we just discussed. We talked about the administrator review process and pay, which we discussed already. The only thing I'm bringing to council right now would be on direction from the mayor and the administrator that we have a meeting set up with all the committee heads to start to figure out how we work together, and who's got what, or whatever that is, because there's a lot of confusion around different issues. So I'm bringing it up now to see if we can set a date for us to meet. Mr. Fisser, myself, Mr. Bussey,
Yeah, it's hard.
and who else? Oh, and of course, the mayor. Right. So can we set a date? Because I promised I'd take a lead to get this set.
Is there a motion and
Oh.
I need a little more clarification as well, because I know that we had talked about that, I think in my summary. I hope that I also expressed that I think there was some sentiment about all the council members being invited and involved.
Oh, of course.
So what specifically is the specification? Everyone attend, but it's the chairs of the committee that are ultimately the voters on it, or what's what are we thinking about that? I was presuming that ultimately the strategic plan is to vote the entire council, it's not
My understanding of Mr. Van Harn's question was maybe that they need to discuss what is currently handled by each committee, not necessarily what it has to do with the strategic plan.
Gotcha.
Correct.
All right. Okay, is there a motion?
Does it have to be an open meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, and to clarify that, my impression was the committee heads have to at least be the ones to start it, but I certainly want to invite everybody, and I hope would be allowed. It is that way, but if nobody can show up at the 3, it's still going to happen. the discussion has to begin, so.
So is there a motion? Okay, I have Mr. Fisher, is there a second? What is your motion?
I'm not sure.
Motion to set a meeting between the.
Just have to set a meeting, I have to have a motion.
Right,
Because if you know some date and time to it, it's not gonna happen.
right, that's what I'm trying to do. is Set the
So
date and time.
it's a question to the administration, what works, because you need to have you there.
So right now, so the 24th is out. So the first is taken.
It
Can we
seems like
do
the
it during-
24th works for everyone but
Works
the
for
chairs.
us.
Can we do it in the morning, during the day too? Yeah.
What else?
Oh, that's right.
Unless it's a Thursday.
Just to open it up for more time, I was thinking, can it be done during the day? And Mr. Knipp said,
I do Thursdays and Fridays during the day, but not Monday,
So-
Tuesday.
just open up the time.
So we're discussing whether it can be done during the day, is that work for administration?
Depends on the day.
Mr. Knapp, Thursdays.
Thursdays and Fridays.
Thursdays and Fridays work.
So the fourth and fifth are like 27th.
One of the things that we could do maybe save time this evening is we could direct administration to be working on times coordinating with us to figure out what would work. I believe we had talked about actually setting the date of this last day. So say, when we have our, when we have our next meeting to, yeah, why don't we just say administration follow us? We're gonna work this out and figure it out.
That's
So
fair.
we don't have to do it right this.
Can you do the 24th at 6:30?
24th of May, or
April.
I
what day
can't,
is that?
I cannot,
Okay.
no, not available.
So
Why don't we work this?
Sharon, kid, do you need to be at this meeting?
I'm not chair.
You're talking about a meeting on the 24th?
Correct.
You know there's three of us
I
that
can't round
cannot
it.
be there on the 24th.
I'm willing to take your, let's,
Yeah. So I'm gonna request that the administration figure it out with the three chairs and then spread that out to the.
Great idea.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Before the end of the week.
No, by the other three.
Posting of
It has to be posted.
posting.
Gotta get the date on.
So then
You're gonna put it on the website.
Correct, and then get a special.
Anything else?
Just we talked about the traffic study that Mr. Hertz talked about and the 5-year road plan. So that's it. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Manor. Let's see, Mr. Marks, I see that the next planning commission meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 1st, at 6 p.m. There'll be a change of use hearing on zoning request to allow general business to operate at 2198 Sandsville Avenue.
Yes.
Anything else to add?
No, that meeting will occur at 6:30 and then 7 o'clock will be the meeting we just planned earlier.
Okay.
Any questions?
And this is regarding the property famously known as the dry cleaners. It's operating as a car B&B right now.
If there's no questions for Mr. Marks concerning the planning commission, then I'll ask Mr. Lacy for his communication.
All right, we've touched on a few subjects already, but the Parks Committee met for the second time, and we put together a mission statement. I'll read that here. The mission of the Parks Committee is to provide park improvement recommendations to promote gathering, collaboration, and unity within the community while considering the diversity, equity, and inclusion of all people. At our next meeting, which I believe is on the 28th, it's a Thursday, April, we are going to discuss we're going to discuss new ideas for the park, and then we're going to discuss how do we engage the community, how do we get new ideas from them. One idea was a Google form, same thing that we had done with the community conversation in the past in the fall. So just kind of open up a survey And we'll kind of discuss what's the best way to get everyone to participate in that. You know, it won't just be a Facebook post just because that's not representative of our community. I mean, we will do a Facebook post, but that's not where we're going to stop. We really want to engage everyone in this just because we want everyone to use the park, and we think everyone deserves to and has a voice with the park. We had discussed our strategic plan in there. I think that's kind of been hashed out. It looks like there's going to be a meeting that you all have scheduled. The We Thrive cleanup that was talked about, and the garage sale as well that weekend. The village app was discussed. We did not have an update actually on it, but it was recommended that we move forward to council. I think maybe they vote on moving that forward. But there were some outstanding questions that the mayor had asked. I don't know if you've received those answers yet.
Yeah, so there were a number of questions that I, as well as other folks, had raised that the app developer wasn't able to answer, wasn't actually the app developer, was the marketing person, so they weren't able to answer some of the coding questions that a number of us had. I submitted those questions to the administration. They have received the answers to that, but those have not been submitted to the committee yet. So I would ask the administration to get some of those to the committee. My understanding is that that was the only reservation on making the recommendation to council to instruct the administration to move forward with getting the app that will allow hopefully more engagement with the community.
So should we make a motion to?
I think we're going to get those, we're going to get the answers to those questions in a matter of
Wednesday.
Okay, so it'll be the next meeting. Okay. All right. That's my update. Unless I'm forgetting anything, but look to the main topics.
Can I make one comment? I was doing some research on parks and was led by more than one person to check out the National Recreation and Parks Association. It's one of the leading resources for architects, municipalities to use for just what you're doing. And I went on there and checked it out, and they have a lot of data on where they go out to all the parks, National Park Association, et cetera. They will ask them, what are you doing? What do you have in your park? And what are the trends for new things? And it was very interesting, some of the data they have about parks out there now. And I know an architect told me about it. They say that's one of our biggest resources that we go to help us see the trends and other ideas out there. So,
were there pictures and examples of?
Yeah, there was a ton of stuff on there. I didn't, it's pretty vast. But the data was really interesting. They asked a lot of parks, what do you have? It was amazing how many had this, or, whether it be a splash park or I don't know, they had all kinds of things that they found out these are the ones that everybody has. A lot of community programs that they listed, things like that. So I check it out. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it seems like a helpful resource to have.
Thank you, Mr. Manor. Thank you, Mr. Wesson. The next community engagement committee meeting will be Tuesday, May 16th at 9:30 a.m. Ms. Cheney, do you have this?
I'm going to do it really, really fast. Building expansion has begun. They've surveyed the property and they've marked it off. Parking lots, the first phase is going to be larger and it should be completed by August 1st. The building is supposed to be complete in 14 months, September of 2020.
Nice.
Oh, I don't believe it.
Is there a nonprofit board? No. Mr. Fisher, Finance Committee report, please.
Yes. First, I would like to apologize to Ms. Cheney for not sending you the information. I was under a different impression of the documents that we discussed. I do apologize for that. Today we discussed the police per diem. We did vote to move it up to council. I'm going to ask the solicitor to put together a proper resolution to passing.
Actually, that's a policy. We do not.
So, okay, so we have a policy to adopt. Did everybody have a chance to look at it? Was it
Could you please summarize it for folks that are in attendance or watching online that know it?
So we have a policy, we're calling it 5-19, business expense reimbursement.
One moment, apologies, Mr. Bishop, could you guys pass the microphone down? Just concerned that on YouTube, you may not be able to hear.
And our residents.
All right, better? We have a policy 5-19, business expense reimbursement. This is for employees of the village to get reimbursed for when they go on trips to do with the village. Anything that, any training or any convention or anything that would do for the benefit of the residents, they should get reimbursed. This is a reimbursement policy. There's two ways to activate your reimbursement. Either you can go ahead and get regular reimbursement where you pay and you bring your receipts into the administration and they'll reimburse you. That was up until now. We're adding in a new feature where we're going to have per diem expenses where that is a certain amount of money per day. And now it's at 59. It's something that constantly changes according to the federal government. Now it's $59 per day. And it is broken down in here exactly when they arrive and for how long, what is considered the per diem for that day. If they show a half a day, how does it count? And all that is laid out over here. For example, breakfast and lunch is 25% of the per diem, and dinner is 50. So if they would arrive at 4 o'clock, they would only be getting the dinner portion, and that would include also for the sleeping in the hotel. And it's also, there is a deduction if the convention they're going to provides sleeping and provides food, then obviously they'll get a deduction on their per diem. The way this is set up is that the heads of each department would decide which path to take. If they want to take reimbursement or per diem, that would allow the police department to decide, and that would also allow our administration to decide how other departments go ahead and could request reimbursement. Therefore, if I do have a motion to allow, I would put forth a motion to update this policy to allow the per diem, travel per diem in it.
I'll make a motion, or I'll second. You made the
I made a motion.
I'll second.
Is there any questions for you about the policy?
Has this been discussed with the police in terms of how it's set up?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so you guys understand it?
Yes.
And then I know last time we just asked the question of how do you determine what's a per diem day and what, that's in there? Okay.
That's what I was explaining over here when you arrive at the time. Also, it is only activates once you're 45 miles from
Okay.
either the village or your house.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
That's all.
All right,
Included.
thank you.
One more point. At the end of this, we are asking to consider this retroactive from the beginning of this year, 1/1/23. If everybody is in favor of that, we'll ask.
So this is one where just advised by our solicitor, this is an all in favor. So all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Without objection, I think that's unanimous. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Is that beautiful?
Second, we discussed the STAR fund and how we are insured. There's no official insurance, but it is a government fund itself, so that would probably speak for itself, that it itself carries government insurance. Then we had a motion to allow the fiscal officer to move over some money into a investment, a short-term high-yield investment and a savings account that will give us more returns of our money that's sitting in the bank account. It's the same bank with the same just money that's sitting there. We have extra money, might as well grow interest on it, and all in favor to allow them to move over some of that money.
Any questions on this? We'll discuss that deep in finance.
Does it need a second first?
I'll second.
Any questions on this?
Yeah, Are these insured accounts too, or how's that work? Just,
It's the same, so again, whatever our money is right now, it's only insured at $250,000. Now, when we keep the money there, move it over to a second account that gets high yield interest, it's the same insurance. So I'm not gaining or losing anything by moving it over. It's the same
Okay.
insurance that we had. Our insurance is not a lot, but that's what we do all across.
So the other thing to be aware of, which is sort of just mentioned to me as well, we mentioned this in finance, is that our Fifth Third account and our Star Fund account are all within a pooled collateral system, so to speak, with municipalities, the state of Ohio throughout. So therefore, that ensures a certain level of liquidity in an account like that that wouldn't necessarily exist for an individual need to make a withdrawal. This is a way to ensure that government entities have money when they need to.
I guess my only thing is when I hear high yield, I also think it's potential to lose money. And like we said with tax, I just want to make sure.
A savings account.
Okay.
There was some information actually that I can pass down that was
Okay.
passed around at that finance committee that explains that, what that account looks like for brevity. What that looks like is the only folks that are allowed to put money into this fund, this pool, are municipalities. Right? So there's cities and townships and villages, they can pool their money so that the interest on that money makes money that then we get back. Also, another great thing about this is it doesn't take us like, oh, we want to get the money out of there. It doesn't take us weeks to do that. We take the money out like that. Okay. So very, very good situation from this dynamics.
So the bank, that our Fifth Third bank account, all of that money is sitting in a non-interest bearing checking account. There's a certain amount of trade-offs that we can actually put into the interest bearing account. So I think it would be beneficial for us, because a lot of that money is goes where it goes, but there's always some kind of a balance that's there.
Yeah, I'm just asking on behalf of residents, saying I want to know if our money is tax dollars. Make sure, that's all I'm trying to do.
We wouldn't pass the resolution, we wouldn't pass something if it was risky.
Well,
to Mr. Van Arn's point,
Right.
it's important to vocalize.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's the Manor part.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Let's see, this as a reminder, the next council meetings are scheduled for Monday, May 8th, 2023. That'll be the Records Commission at 5:45 p.m. Executive Committee meeting at 6 p.m. Council meeting at 7 p.m. or immediately after the conclusion of the Executive Committee meeting. The following meeting then would be May 22nd, 2023. Finance Committee meeting at 6 p.m. Council meeting at 7 p.m. or immediately after the conclusion of the Finance Committee meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your service this evening. Thank you to all who have hung out in the audience until this late hour. It helps keep us on our best behaviors. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I have one thing I want to
Oh,
say.
sorry.
In listening to the community tonight, I realized I was missing an apology. In our discussion a couple of weeks ago, I realized just tonight and listening to everybody that I cast this body in a poor light. And I want to say I'm sorry, and I will do better. It wasn't my best moment, and it wasn't professionalism that I expect out of myself. And you guys took a little heat for that tonight, and that's on me. That's my fault. So I want to say I'm sorry, and looking forward to getting some business done for the village.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Do you have a motion to close?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for your service. Thank you for your
Right. Right, so you just say.